Alrighty. How's it going, guys? Angus here from Maker's Muse. Sorry for the slight delay. The cats are in the room, and we'll see if they are allowed to stick around. Probably not. They're just wandering around. Great to see you again in another stream. It's almost tradition to unbox a Prusa printer live. I'm not sure why. I tend to get them after the hype, and there's no embargoes, so it's really enjoyable just sharing my first experiences with you guys. It's awesome to see everyone in the chat, and the audio system, I don't know. I'm using this microphone on the table. I was trying to get some Frankenstein headset audio to work, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's great to catch up, and just a few things to touch on. It's been a rough month. We've had the spicy flu, and then I fell down the stairs, so I'm a little bit damaged. So if I look like I'm struggling a bit, yeah, just give me some slack, cut me some slack. Anyway, volume up a bit. It's already in the orange. I'm not going to push it any higher. If you want more volume, then you'll have to do it on your end, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to put that any higher. But I'll see if I switch to the headset. Andrew, thank you for the $10 for the Pet Cats Fund. Tully is currently sleeping on top of the Magneto X, which is like their favorite spot now. Oh, they're both up there now. Okay, so you can see the cats. There they are. Maybe they'll stay there happily. I'll show you. I'll bring them down. 1 second. Before we get into the main action. Hey, darlings. Hey, darlings. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. Here's Tully. Hey, darling. Look how she's grown. She's still very small for it. Like, she was the smallest, but she's very cute. Very sweet. Back up you go. Prince, on the other hand. My goodness. Hasn't he grown? He's humongous. Hey, darling. He is like the Snuffleupagus in Sesame Street. Like, he'll just eat everything. And we have to be really careful to make sure he doesn't eat too much or the wrong things. But they're both very, very gentle, kind-natured animals. Oh. Builder's crack. My apologies. Alright. Let's get into the meat of things. Mark 4S. So, I think we can all kind of agree that the Mark IV was released probably a bit too early. I totally understand that at the time there was a lot of issues with component supply and the pandemic recovery and all that. But when the Mark IV was released, things that were really important features weren't in it. But what a lot of people don't know is that over the course of the year and a half that it was released, those features came into place. But the thing is, when you make videos, right, the first reviews were done on that machine. So the Mark 4S is interesting because it is an upgrade. But the Mark IV in its current state has a lot of the things that people are desiring for the Mark 4S. Which Tom did a really good video on covering the Mark 4S. But what it does have, which I'm really looking forward to trying out, is a much improved cooling system. Because you want to print fast, you got to cool fast. And the Mark IV didn't really have a very powerful cooling fan system. Anyway. I'm going to try to catch up the chat as well. Bring that over here. Professional streams, as always. If this is the first Maker's Muse stream you're catching, this is what it's always like. Sorry, not sorry. Oh, Gamma, thank you very much. I did see the email for the Flexi Wheelies. I am bringing back the off-road robotics platform. I'll talk more about that stuff after we cover this and get it printing. But let's get it out of the box. I'm predicting a easy setup. They say setups within minutes out of the box, and I will give the app a go as well. I will give that a go. Alright. Alright, what else should we got? Organized crime, cockatoo crime project video dropping when? The cockatoos still visit, but they don't like the cats very much. But I'm probably going to do something around Christmas. Yeah, watch this space. Thank you for purchasing the original Prusa MK4S. Your support allows us to invest in further development of open source 3D printers and other 3D printing innovations, including the Prusa Slicer software, a high quality Prusa materials, and printables.com community. It's really interesting, like, Prusa Slicer has become so, like, ubiquitous, is that the right word? Like, people don't realize that Bamboo Slicer and Orca Slicer are all rooted into Prusa Slicer, which was originally just Slicer. But it's so interesting. I've done some shorts recently, I'm sure you guys have seen them, and people are like, oh, Bamboo Slicer, like, Prusa Slicer based off Bamboo Slicer, and, like, people are getting a little confused. There's so many variations, but, like, the amount of effort that's gone into the development of Prusa Slicer has really driven, like, all of these other platform forwards, which is really important. But I've been trying Orca Slicer a lot lately because I like the interface. I much prefer the interface. It's clean, and it's got a lot of features that don't get pushed back downstream into Prusa Slicer that are a little bit more cutting edge. Like, you can turn off ensure vertical wall thickness in Orca Slicer. That's nice. But it's interesting just how, like, they're all, like, built on, which is, like, the true, like, open source nature of things. I can tell from your hair that I have not watched Maker's Muse in a while. Dude, this hair grows so fast. You cannot stop it. It's ridiculous. I've got some classic Haribo, of course. A physical handbook. That's, like, Prusa's one of the last companies to do a physical handbook. Most of them are like, oh, it's on the USB drive. And look, it goes into detail for a beginner, absolutely useful, but it doesn't really go anywhere beyond that. But I haven't looked at the latest version, so let's have a look here. It does have a section on printing your own models. It does have a section on how to create your own models. It suggests Tinkercad, which is good. I'd agree with that. Autodesk Fusion 360, that's definitely a good option as well. Cool. Yeah, actually, this is quite in-depth. Different materials. This is sick, actually. Yeah, they've done a good job. Maker's Muse, when will your next video unboxing a 3D printer? Probably not for a while. I don't really do many reviews anymore because, let's be real, printers kind of are good now, and it has to really stand out. This is just because I think the reason I agreed to the MK4S, and I wasn't going to jump on any sort of embargoes, is because I think the Mk4 was rushed, and that made making content around it really confusing and difficult because it was updating every month. Whereas this is like, out of the box, I can actually compare this to other printers on the market as it is, as a fair assessment, which I will definitely be doing. Alright. Got some foam, always well packed. Got some Galaxy Black PLA, which is very pretty. Totally not chosen because it hides layer lines. Some accessories. Hey Molto, hey from Seattle. I did actually enjoy my time in Seattle when I went and saw Joel. That was a really good time. Okay. My chest. Should not be lifting heavy objects. Right. They're just watching. Where did Tully go? Oh, she's outside. It's okay. I just have to be careful there's no small things for them to nibble on, because they tend to do that. I need to be careful. Right, got our USB drive. And the infamous wobbly table. Bring the table to you. There you go. How's that? Is that in focus? Not really. Let me focus that up for you. Oh, I turned the camera off. I am awesome. Everything's upside down and backwards, so it's a bit hard. Professional. Focus it. Okay, now which button? That one. I'm sorry. Cool. So you can see we've got that much larger cooling fan, which is a higher pressure fan. Apparently it's come downstream from Prusa's industrial printers, and yeah, it takes like 5 seconds to get out of the box. And you really need good cooling for high-speed printing. Like, it is such an important feature. It's got the CHT nozzle. They're in a new version of that, so higher flow. And I'm going to be testing these claims. I'll test how quickly it can print good looking prints, strong prints as well, because fast doesn't matter if it's not strong. And I'll be testing it against some other brands as well. I'll test it against, like, I've got the A1 Mini, so that's sort of my go-to portable 3D printer for fast printing. So I'm going to see if it compares, how it compares to that. But you can't deny just like the industrial aesthetic of the machines is pretty sick. Like the frame. Oh, Tully found the box. This whole sort of die-cast metal like main frame now is so overkill. Like it's got the triangulations in the back to pocket it and make it strong and rigid, but it's so unnecessary. Anyway, it shouldn't take too long to get set up. Let's get out of the box. I've got people from all around the world. I've got Germany, nice to meet you. Greetings from Brazil, hello. I see a Roland JX8P back there. Absolutely. The 8P is underrated. Criminally underrated. And I'd like it to stay that way because that means they're still affordable. For those who don't know, it's like one of Roland's last like proper analog polysynths, and it's got it's digitally controlled oscillators, so it doesn't go out of tune, but it's really nice sounding. It's got like very creamy synths, and it's got the chorus, which is like critical. Right, I'm gonna plug this guy in. Greetings from Argentina. Welcome. New Zealand. Southern California. Wow. Honestly, when I started doing this YouTube channel, I was like living in this tiny suburb in Perth in Western Australia. And the concept that people around the world would even know I exist is just like ridiculous. Like I only started doing videos to help people who are coming into the store who are asking the same questions, and I just wanted to show them a video instead of answering the questions every 5 seconds. There we go. All right. Power on test. It's a good start. Last time I unboxed the Mark IV, the screen didn't work, but that was just a shipping thing. Something bumped at the cable. All right. English. Hi, this is your original Prusa printer. I'd like to guide you through the setup process. Thanks, Joe. Printer type, Mark 4S, 0.4 nozzle. Does it have the silicon sock? Yes, it does. That's another thing. When my Mark IV arrived, it didn't even have a silicon sock because the production was so delayed. But this is everything I was hoping we'd be getting, basically. Alright, do I want to connect the Wi-Fi with the Prusa app? Do I want to use the Prusa app? Do we want to use the app? Let's give it a go. Let's give the app a go. Are the rods 10mm or usual 8mm? They look like 8mm on the gantry, on the Y, and 10 on the bed, on the on the Y, 10 on the Y, 8 on the X. I've been doing this for years. I should know this. And the sides look like 12 actually. They might be 10. I've got calipers. They're quite large. Shivel, Jesus, it's been so long. It's so good to see you. I hope you've been well. It's been an interesting year. Okay, App Store. I'm gonna grab the Prusa app. Prusa. Install. All right. Just what we need, another 3D printing app. I'm kidding. The app's completely optional. You don't actually need it. Are those bright orange parts 3D printed? That's a good question. So, the older printers, the older Prusa printers were printed with PETG as structural components. Apparently they've moved to polycarbonate blends. But these are printed. Their marketing did say there was more injection molded parts, but I can't really see any. Yeah, no, they're still printed. Okay, open. Darren says, "Hello Angus, no Excel, or are you not are you worthy?" I said no to an Excel. Partly because I am at the sort of stage where I'm running out of I don't have much space. I'm seriously low on space. And I use printers to print things as tools. And the Excel feels to me like it's an awesomely powerful like tinkerer's platform where I'd spend a lot of time setting up files and getting it working and getting it reliable versus just making stuff. So although the extra functionality would be incredible, you could do combined TPU and like polycarbonate printing and stuff like that, I assume. I just don't think I'd take the full advantage of it because I feel I would avoid it because of the time involved. And also I've got the Magneto X here. That's already gigantic. I don't know where else to put that. And I don't know what I'd do with anything else. Anyway, all right, we've got the app fired up. There we go. What's the name of the black cat? He is called Prince of Darkness. Or Prince, for short. You need an account. Of course you do. It makes sense. I'm going to do this after. You guys don't need to wait for me to set up an account. Enter credentials manually. I can do that. Good. Oh, that's... I forgot. The touchscreen didn't work for like a year on the Mark IV. But now it's set up. So I'm just going to stand in front of it and do my credentials so you sneaky guys don't see it. Actually, hold on. Professional. Okay. Alright. I can see what Tom meant about it's like a blast from the past going back to using a keypad like that because each button has 3 letters or 4 letters. It's like using your old phones. Alright, I'm gonna take the little test print off. Oh yeah, Mark, you are correct. I probably do have a Prusa account. I assume it's linked to printables and all that. Alright, let's do a test. Stefan saying I got an Ender 3 V3 SE because of you. Keep up the good work. I hope it's working well. That's probably the cheapest printer I would ever recommend. And I still got mine. It's still alright. It's very capable for the price, but it's not as fast as I'd like it. And Creality does Creality things, so I'm not even sure how many Ender 3s I've made since that one. Quick question: do you have an engineering or CAD background? I studied industrial design at University of Technology in Sydney, and that was an interesting degree. But honestly, I mostly did it because I wanted access to the workshop because they had proper milling machines and lathes and things, and I wanted to build combat robots. So I kind of just went to the workshop all the time and did the classes secondary. But yeah, I learned SolidWorks at uni, and then I ended up learning Fusion 360 myself because I couldn't afford SolidWorks when I left uni. Prince is very fascinated by the printer. If you guys can see him up in the corner. Look at it go. System 32, my A1 Mini. Yeah, the 18 by 18 by 18 centimeters cube definitely is limiting. It really does make you sort of consider the size of your projects. For like small things like this, awesome, totally fine. Yeah, anything chunkier, yeah, starts to become an issue. Okay, load cell test. We'll need your help with this test. You will be asked to tap the nozzle. Don't worry, it's going to be cold. Imagine if it wasn't, just like as a troll. Okay, tap the nozzle on the beep. Load cell test passed. I'm helping. Prince of Darkness does zoomies around the house. It's called pod racing. This morning, they were doing zoomies, and I was like the obstacle to zoom around. They were just going around the bed, jumping off me, and then of course like attacking my feet, and then jumping off. As soon as the sun comes up, you know, all hell breaks loose. Stink. I'm not. You guys have the worst names. Is the Bamboo X1 Carbon a great printer? Yeah, it is. It is probably the machine I use the most. Because it's enclosed, it's super fast, it's got a decently sized print volume, and it just doesn't fail. Like, the only time it fails is if I'm printing a large part in a high warping material, like maybe ABS or something like that sometimes. Or if I make a mistake in slicer. Like if I send something that should have supports that it doesn't, then it fails. Or if the bed's not clean, because sometimes I'm lazy and you get fingerprints all over the bed, and that, you know, oils from your fingers can stop bed adhesion. But that's like, that would affect any printer, and that's only if I'm being careless. So I use mine all the time. I haven't done any of the maintenance. It keeps saying, please like lubricate my rods and stuff, or clean the rods. I just, I'll do it another time. I'm gonna run it until it breaks. But so far it hasn't. Okay, we're doing our nozzle heater check. So this is awesome. This is like all the stuff that back in the day you just would have to figure out on your own. Like, oh, is it extruding properly? Is the nozzle getting to temperature? Is the nozzle seated properly? What's the bed level? Is the nozzle offset correctly? Like, none of that has to be done now. It's all done automatically. You just use them to work. Like, use them just to print stuff. It's fantastic. I'm saving up points on Makerworld to get a free free printer, should I save it for a P1P or P1S? I think, for a start, isn't it incredible that you can get, like, free stuff from these repositories now? Versus, like, back in the day, it was just Thingiverse, and, like, you were fighting to make the platform even work for you, like, even to be able to download without issues. And now they're competing so hard for people to upload good files that they're paying for it. I think the P1P and P1S are largely comparable. The benefit of the P1S is the enclosure, so I'd go with the P1S. But they're muchness, especially if you're only printing PLA. There's not a huge difference. But yeah, P1S is a nice little quality bump up, I think. I think P1P was just Bamboo really trying to hit a price point at all costs. Like, you look at the machine, it's not finished. It's got no enclosure around the sheet metal chassis. Like, no normal company would ever release that. They just had to hit a price point, and they made it like, oh, it's cool that you can print your own enclosure. No, you just had to hit a price point, and you cut back everything possible. But the fact that it can still work is incredible. So at the time, it was a genius move. Now, I'm not sure I'd buy it. All right, gearbox alignment. I don't need to do that. Filament sensor calibration. We need to start with that filament in the extruder. Please make sure there is no filament. Well, there is filament, so let's unload that. Last time I did this, I calibrated it backwards, so I got the load sensor wrong. What are you doing, Tully? Yeah, go back over there. There's stuff everywhere. Kitty in the back being getting mischievous. Yeah. You take your eyes off them for 5 seconds and they're just doing the most ridiculous stuff. Also, like, the puzzle at the top, the snack puzzle, like, they really want that. Tully. She is the most naughty, for sure. Prince just sleeps. Thank you. Fart. Best name. Thanks, dude. Are you a full-time YouTuber or do you have a full-time job within the 3D product development industry or freelance? So, okay, I am a full-time YouTuber now, but I supplement it through product sales through the website. So I have some digital downloads. I have an ebook on like how to learn about 3D printing, that sort of thing. But originally when I started, I was working full-time doing, I suppose you could call it product design at a 3D printing firm. So people come in with ideas and I would make those ideas in CAD and then I would prototype them and print them. That's how I started, and I was doing that for a good 2 or 3 years before I sort of weaned off that. I still do like courses in person sometimes for other companies, but not a huge amount. That's just mostly because of where I am. Like, Australia is not a huge hot, like, there's not a huge amount of demand for that sort of thing. But yeah, YouTube full-time now, but it took a while to get here. Okay, is there filament in the filament sensor? No. And Tully's found my jacket. Tully, please don't. Oop. Cat. I should get a second camera that follows the kitty. That's pretty hard to do when they keep going everywhere they shouldn't. Okay, lay you down. There you go. Okay, insert the filament into the extruder until the sensor detects the filament. I gotta get some filament. They did send me some of their own. Actually, I'll just use the one that came with. Okay. Head-mounted camera. I've seen people make videos where they have like a little camera on the cat's collar and like it follows their day-to-day like routine. It's really funny. Oh, there's always so much crap on the floor after a stream. Okay, where's that end? Where does it end? What the heck? Oh, there it is. Tucked away. You gotta admit, like, that is a perfectly wound spool. Like, that's ridiculous. Have I posted any of my music online? Yes. If you just search SoundCloud Maker's Muse or SoundCloud Angus, yeah, it should be all there. I don't expect quality. I mostly do music for myself. Okay, I'm gonna poke filament through. Continue. Build a device that can recognize the kitties and track the movement and repoint the camera as it moves. I could do. It would just have to like navigate all the crap they hide behind, because like any small space they'll get into. Sweet. Well, apparently that's set up. So we'll grab the USB stick. Spool holder. Good point. I should fit that. Okay, where's the accessories box? Have they improved the spool holder? Because no, it's the same. I'm not a huge fan of the spool holder design they use, I'll be honest. I think it's a little bit weird. Injection molded though. That was the same with the Mark IV. Makes sense, you know, you get a part you need to make for every single printer that doesn't change. Injection molding does make more sense. But they have these weird guides that like guide it down to the extruder. I'm not going to fit them right now. I don't really think they're needed for a test. That's home. What's my go-to filament brand? Honestly, anything that's cheap. I have this sort of philosophy that I think any filament works now. It's not like the 3D printing dark ages where you'd get like 1.75 millimeter filament and it'd be like 2 millimeters diameter and it just would jam up the hot end. I haven't encountered that for years. So I buy from a company that does like ink cartridges in Australia. I'm pretty sure it's Sunlu. It's rebranded, but it's like $25 a kilo, which is the cheapest you can get in Australia. And it's fine. It goes a bit brittle if you leave it on the spool on the printer, as do most PLA plastics. They got a whole range of other filaments. The thing with the cheap filaments is like, if you want to get like a cheap like nylon or a cheap polycarbonate, they rarely work. You have to go with the expensive ones that are like mixes of different plastics and not just pure polycarbonate. So in those cases, yeah, you probably want to go with like the Prusa polycarbonate versus a no-name brand. But if I want to go with those like really hardcore materials, I generally go with Polymaker, which is expensive, but like their high flow TPU is like incredible. So if I really need it, I'll do that. Otherwise, for PLA, cheapest I can find. There you go. Things from China cheaper in Australia than the States. Theoretically, but the shipping is still pretty high. So it doesn't tend to be as cheap as you'd think. AliExpress, like small stuff, is often still subsidized. But yeah, like filament, you'd have to buy. For a start, it'd have to come on freight, like sea freight, and you'd have to buy a lot of it, like probably like 100 rolls to actually get any sort of discount. And then you'd be stuck with colors you don't want, etc., etc. I just buy it as I need it, and someone just ships it next day. Someone else's problem. See, like printers settle down, but Tully is just wandering around, just like everything is fascinating. Okay, just gonna find What's going on in the USB? There should be a speed benchy on here. We have a bonkers. So we have a bonkers benchy at 8 minutes, and a benchy rules speed mode benchy rule print at 14 minutes. Do we want to do the 8-minute one or the 14-minute one? I will just give this a quick wipe because it's very dusty and it might ruin our adhesion. 1 second. Right. 8-minute one. All right. Can do. Right, let's preheat that, load the filament, and we'll do that. Yes, I'll feed it with plastic first. Thank you, Pedro. I did catch that. Do the cats like boxes? Maybe a big printer box will entertain them. They love the printer boxes. Yeah, I will definitely be making like a little cat house out of it. They get bored of them eventually, but yeah, for a long time they really enjoyed them. I'd like to see something with extreme overhangs after, if possible. Sure, I can give that a go. There is an overhang test on here. Where's Tully gone? I can hear her. I can't see her. I might have to evict them for this because it's going to make a lot of noise and they might get scared. So 1 second. Baby. Darling. Come on. I know. Everything's so much fun. Out you go. Okay. Come on, buddy. I know you don't want to go. I know. Alright. Now we don't have to worry about them eating all the bits of plastic on the floor and getting scared about the printer. Alright, is that heated? Looks like it. Okay, loading that. I've seen videos where they run 3D waste through a grinder and they turn it back into filament. Do they really work? Not really. Yes, if you're really, really determined to make it work and it costs a lot of money, you have to make sure you don't mix plastics. You have to make sure that the temperature they melt at is consistent, and you need to make sure the diameter you create the filament in is consistent, which is harder than you might think because filament extrusion is actually more of like a drawing process. They pull it out of the nozzle at a certain speed to actually make it reduce in diameter into the final filament diameter. And as you know, it has to be exact or it will jam in the machine. So it can be done, but it's so difficult. Unfortunately, there's a lot of videos online of people doing it, and you can see how much effort they put into actually making it work. Like Stefan CNC Kitchen has done a few videos on it. Okay. They're meowing. Don't unload it. Why did you unload the filament? Oh, okay. You have to tell it what type of filament it is. A little bit too smart for its own good. I've set preheating to PLA, but now it wants me to tell it it's PLA. My cat loves finding filament scraps and actively works to find and nibble on unsupervised PTFE tubes. Yeah, I don't know what it is about filament, but they go bonkers for it. I have to be so careful about leaving spools around, about like any of the brims or anything. They latch onto it. So I don't know what it is, but I really have to be careful about making sure this room's really clean, which is difficult because my job is to test 3D printers. All right, looking good. Almost ready for our speedboat test. Opinion on any cubic. Don't really have any. I haven't tested any of their latest stuff, but their old stuff was pretty solid. But yeah, I haven't really looked closely lately. Is the color correct? Sure. All right, print. Yeah, see, stuff like this. Like, if I left this out, prints would just be like, wow, that's the most delicious thing I've ever seen. You cannot leave it. About new cooling fan design, look at the video from Robert Cowan's Uncovering Prusa. I will definitely check that out, because I like how Robert's very fair and doesn't sort of pull any punches. Of course, you have to press print again. I forgot that. Just like, yes, print the file. Yes, print it. No, I said print it. My kitty is a Maine Coon and once caught her dragging a bunch of filament color change purge stuck in her mane. Well, this is on her mane, not in her mouth. We've already had one close call where someone decided to get hold of a cat toy and eat the string off the cat toy into bits, and no one saw it, so we had to take both into the emergency vet. And they're like, we can try to make them vomit, but I don't know how. Like, it's not always guaranteed. So I think the cat just had a great time. Apparently they were spinning them around, giving them something that made them nauseous. They didn't vomit. Turns out that he did eat it, but in bits, so it was just fine. But yeah, like, even like an actual cat toy, like, you can't leave them with it for too long because they'll just annihilate it. But it is what I signed up for. They are cats. They will do what cats do. So it seems that the new design is just a trick and not an improvement. Interesting. I mean, it's a much larger fan. Like, that's not a trick, but is the duct the trick? Like, I will be doing a head-to-head comparison, for sure. Can you make the string taste bad? Maybe. I've heard that some people do stuff like that. But I can't make every string in the house taste bad. I've removed as much as possible. But yeah, apparently it's just so great to just chew on stuff like that. They are still teething, though, to be fair. They're kittens. Like, they're not even a year old. So they will settle down. So is this the brand new Prusa I take it? Yes. So this is the Prusa MK4S. It is small, I'd say very minor upgrades to the Mark IV. What really has sort of happened is the Mark IV had lots of upgrades over the course of the last year and a half. When it came out, I don't think it was ready for the market. It doesn't even have linear advance. Like, it was not good. But it became a faster printer. They upgraded it through firmware. They did various tweaks, which made it what it should have been when it came out. So when you compare this to the Mark IV when it first came out, light years different. But you compare this to the Mark IV now, not sure how different it actually is. But I wasn't actually going to review it, but I left a comment saying I was going to upgrade my current Mark IV, and they were like, hey, do you want us to just send you one to check out? I'm like, sure, fine. And yeah, so we're doing an 8-minute bonkers benchy, which is a very fast benchy, and we're going to see how it goes. Okay, it's completely hollow. That's how it's bonkers. So it is on the famous wobbly table, but it's the only table I can move around, so sorry. It won't affect the print quality. We've already tested this. I've hung a printer from the roof and it didn't affect print quality. Something I'm already noticing is the perimeters, the outer perimeters, are not super fast. Like, they're quick. Those perimeters are not as fast as I've seen in other printers. But it is very quiet for the speed. That fan is actually fairly quiet. Are there 3D printers that can be controlled over the internet? Yeah, most of them now. To the point where it's almost a detriment. So, a lot of the printers now use cloud connectivity, and you send data over the cloud to their servers to the printer, which is convenient, and you can use the app and etc. etc. You can monitor your prints from out of the house, but if the servers go down, then your printer can't connect to what you're using. So yeah, like even this one has an app now, but you don't have to use it. But a lot of the printers now, like the Bamboo ones in particular, Bamboo Labs have a very strong reliance on cloud connectivity, and it's very convenient. But do you want that? Is the convenience worth the possible downfall in the future? I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, it's very quiet. There must be a way to stabilize the table. There isn't. It's a single like cantilevered arm on a very soft carpet, like with that much foam. The other table I have is good, but it's a fixed height, so I can't change the camera. So I've got this one. That's a standing desk. That is great. Like that desk is a standing desk, but it's like immovable. And even that wobbles. When the Magneto X is printing, that standing desk wobbles. It's ridiculous how much inertia that machine has. It doesn't matter. The printers don't care. Right, so it's doing pretty good. It looks like the inside's like lightning infill. It's very, very minimal infill. Pretty sure we'll have dialed back the speed, especially if it's only a test print. I mean, it's an 8-minute bench, like bonkers benchy, but yes, I agree. They might have made it. Maybe it's 6 minutes, if you really push it. I've already answered the question about Anycubic. If you ask again, I might have to mute you. Sorry, I haven't tested their latest machines. I have no idea. Yeah. There's a lot of companies at the moment trying to play catch up still. I think like it's a really good time for consumers because all the companies are trying to get your business and they're trying to implement new features, better deals, etc. It's not like a couple of years ago where it's just a race to the bottom where no one was offering innovative stuff. So companies really have to compete to actually survive in this market. Right, it's doing pretty well. Again, the glitter black, galaxy black PLA, it hides layer lines. It's kind of the intention of a glitter filament. There's a slight hint of the hull artifact that the benchy gets, but not much because, oops, it is a touchscreen. There's not much I can see on this one, probably because there's not much filament on that layer because it's so hollow. So you're not going to see much of an artifact, but it is somewhat perceivable. It's very quiet. is very quiet. Yeah, so yeah, Creality's trying to compete with the K2 series, but I I'm not going to give them a pass because they just made the Ender 3 endlessly for like 8 years before doing anything actually innovative. It sucks because it took Bamboo coming onto the market with a huge amount of funding behind it to shake up existing companies. So I feel like we lost like 4 or 5 years of progress because companies were just sitting on their laurels, not really innovating. Because I've got a printer from 2012. It's the Up Mini, and it still works pretty good. Like, it had it wasn't cloud connectivity, but it was like, connect over USB. It was quick. It was fairly easy to set up. I didn't have to build it. There was machines back in 2012 that didn't really work out on the market, but they were trying to do like a Raspberry Pi in them to have, again, like wireless connectivity, webcams, and that sort of stuff. And then we just saw this huge dip in quality and only focused on price. There's a lot of factors involved. I think a large part of it was GearBest and this huge sort of rush to sell the cheapest machine possible on GearBest to then flog to people around the world. And then you'd get communities that sprung up around printers that didn't really work, but because they'd already bought it, they were trying to make it work, and they'd sort of find like a community in the act of trying to make their machines work. It was such a weird time. I just want a tool that works. All I want is the printer that works, and I will do a video soon about like what is the best 3D printer, and it will literally be the one that works. It just has to function. It has to be reliable, it has to be quick, because turnaround times are fun. But that's it. Like, you can put all the bells and whistles in the world, but if it's not reliable, no one's going to use it. Thanks so much again for the 15 New Zealand. If you had any experience, have I had much experience with commercial 3D printers? And if I had a wish list, what type of machine would be on it? None. Commercial 3D printing companies are evil. They are terrible. So, like, the technology has been locked behind patents for so many years, and we're finally getting out of it. And now Stratasys is suing Bamboo Labs for these patents that are ridiculously not enforceable in the slightest, in my opinion. Like heated print beds or purge towers, things that were already out in the wild. People were doing with open source platforms well before they were patented by MakerBot, which Stratasys bought. No, they just want to keep it expensive for industry. They couldn't care less about consumers. I know that for a fact because 3D Systems had the Cubified platform and they killed it. They erased it off the surface of the earth because they didn't want to focus on consumers, and they said in the press release they're focusing back on industry because they can just make easy money. So there is nothing in industry that I would want. The only exception is metal 3D printing, but I would never want to own a metal 3D printer because what would you like? It's such a ridiculously dangerous and expensive technology to do anything with metal, let alone a 3D print with it. So that's a service I'm glad exists, and I will use that. But like, there's a machine called the Fortis 450, and like we were looking to buy one in 2013, and it was like 300 something thousand Australian dollars for an FDM style 3D printer. And yeah, it could do Ultem, but so can the machines that Vision Miner sell for a fraction of the price. Yeah, you set me off. So, look, I respect the inventors of this technology fully. I do not respect the companies that gatekeep it. And that is my opinion, and that is all I'm going to say on the matter. We're done. So it's still hot, stuck down pretty well. Let's have a look, shall we? Nice. Let's focus it up. There you go. It's a good little benchy for 8 minutes. I mean, it weighs nothing. It's completely hollow. A few tiny wispy strings. It's always kind of been a thing with Prusa printers. These little like tiny strings. I don't know if it's the filament they use. Um, but yeah, it's always got a few tiny little ones. It might just be the blend. Cool. All right, let's do an overhang test. I have to keep remembering there's a touch screen now. Right, well, the overhang test takes like 3 hours. So I'll start it. We'll see how we go, and then I'll update you guys in a community post. How's that? String use is because their stock profile is slightly too hot. Good tip, thank you. I will check that out. Yeah, the okay, just going back to the whole industry printers thing. My uni had I might focus on me for this because I'm important. My uni had like really large Stratasys printers. They're like $80,000 Australian at the time. Large fridge-sized FDM 3D printers. They had like these huge cartridges that had chips in them, and the machine would be like, "Oh, I'm running out of filament," but you could feel there's filament in it, right? Like there'd still be filament in it. So the cost price, because they've got you in this ecosystem, for like a small 3D print for us as students, cost price, like hundreds of dollars. Like something this size, probably like $150, right? And then the machines would break down all the time, so they'd have to get a tech to fly in to fix it because you couldn't at all fix it yourself. But the thing that makes the original like Stratasys machines so good was that they printed in an ABS alloy or ABS something. I think it's ABS polycarbonate or some sort of ABS style 3D filament. And the chamber was actively heated. So the way that they do it is there's baffles, and the extruders are above the baffles, and the nozzles are like really long. There's a huge tube that goes down to the hot end, and it runs through the baffles. So all the electronics are out of the heated chamber. And then the chamber itself is allowed to get actively heated to a very high temperature. And that, I think, is still somewhat protected. A few of those patents did expire, but that is why those machines could print large ABS and Ultem prints without warping, because you didn't have to worry about the electronics overheating because they're out of the chamber. So that was a really cool innovation. I totally respect that. But what's happening now with Bambu Labs being attacked by Stratasys is just so disgusting. It's so ridiculous. I hope it gets thrown out. Can I move my camera a bit to the left? Probably. Let's try that. There you go. I became the 3D printer guy because I was the only one who could figure out how to fix them. Yeah, that's the story of my life. I was repairing the UP 3D printers from Tier Time in Australia for a long time because I had one and I needed to know how to fix it when it broke, and therefore I became the guy that fixed the printers for the actual reseller. And you learn a lot. Like I for a while was fixing other people's printers, and like seeing just how some of them were made is just so ridiculous. Like seeing how a MakerBot like 2X was constructed, or even the like 5th gen. You know, finding out it's got an HDMI cable that was like duct tape inside the frame, and how their extruder was made. Whole saga there. But there's been some really innovative companies that have come and gone. Some of you might not remember the CEL Robox. That was 2014, I'd say. I reviewed one on the channel. It had some really big issues because they tried to do some clever stuff with the hot end by having like valves and a large and small nozzle that was open and closed with valves. They just should have just had a point 0.4 nozzle. Should have just had that. They eventually moved to that. But if you look at the design for the CEL Robox, it's an incredible design. It's sleek. It was like fairly fast, and it had a locking enclosure to make it safe for kids. Like, there's some really cool stuff that's come out that just didn't stick, and it's almost a shame actually. Like, some of those designs didn't carry through because everyone just wanted the cheapest machine, which was the Ender 3 and its various clones. Cetus, yeah, Cetus is another one that was so Tier Time made the Cetus brand because they didn't want to compete with themselves because the Tier Time printers were more expensive. But the first Cetus that came out, I think it was 2015 or 2016, it had so you guys know the A1 Mini from Bamboo Lab. Imagine that design, but back in 2015. That was the Cetus, and it had high wind rails, quality linear rails on XYZ, and like you could pick it up and move it around. It weighed nothing. PLA only, unheated print bed. It had a weird, thick glue coating on the print bed, and it was fantastic, awesome. And then they did the Cetus 2. It was okay, it wasn't the best, and then Cetus 3, and like they somehow got worse. I don't know what happened. The extruders would overheat, and the reliability went through the like down the toilet. But yeah, like I still have my original Cetus. Like there was some really good innovative printers back then. And then they made the new Cetus, which is ridiculous. Wouldn't even consider it a 3D printer that I would even look at. Yes. Right. So this is going to be a much slower print. So I'll probably go for a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap up. But first impressions, not much is like the feel is exactly the same as the Mark IV. The touchscreen has made entering the Wi-Fi credentials a lot better because you used to have to get the USB stick and load up a text file with your Wi-Fi details and put them into the printer. Ridiculously archaic. Like, to do that in 2023 is beyond belief, right? Don't have to do that anymore. They've got an app, so they've realized they have to adapt and do that. But I feel that this is like the Mark IV as it should have been. I will obviously do more tests, but the fit and finish and the polish feels there now. And it was quiet printing that 8-minute benchy. It was much quieter than a lot of the other fast printers I've got. Like the PO Poly, the Magneto X, I'm still reviewing that. It's not been easy. There's been a few quirks and features, right? But when that's printing fast, the cooling fan is a cyclone. It is so loud. You know, the Bamboo X1 Carbon, again, a loud 3D printer. This seems to be, they sort of trying to do fast but quiet, which I can respect, especially if you're in an environment where you have to work with your printer near you. Dude, don't worry about it. It's all good. Sending you off, and I agree with you, especially when it comes to the RRP of commercial machines. Yeah, they're so overpriced. Don't stress it at all. I like, again, like you guys know, the channel, like, inspiring creativity through technology is my thing. That you cannot inspire creativity if you gatekeep technology. So that's why you'll never see me feature really expensive printers. I was actually thinking of implementing a price cap on the machines I show on the channel, because there's zero point showing a $10,000, $20,000 3D printer, because none of you could ever buy that. There's no point owning it when lower cost machines exist. If you want metal 3D printing, if you want CNC componentry, if you want to have even MJF, like the multi-jet fusion technology that HP has, those machines, just use a service like PCBWay or JLC PCB, or Shapeways has gone broke. You can't use Shapeways, but any of them to get those parts done instead of trying to do them in house. I see like home 3D printing as a fantastic rapid prototyping, which is what it used to be known as, tool, because then you can make stuff, whoops, like this, right? So this is a remote control mouse toy for the cats. It has an FPV camera in the front, so you can literally play like a horror game, cat and mouse, with your cats. So like you can run away from them. There'll be like a little string attached to the back here, and kibble goes in the top. So as it runs away, it dribbles out kibble. This is this like second version or so. Yeah, I've gone through a few prototypes. There's no way I would have been able to iterate this design as fast as I have without having 3D printers in-house. Because remember, I told you guys at the start of the stream, I've had COVID for like a month, and I fell down the stairs. So I've been kind of hobbled. And I've had a lot of downtime, so I've been able to do stuff like this because I've had the tools. And I want to support you guys to do that as well. That's the whole point of the channel. Cyber Hobbit, thank you so much. Love your channel and passion. Tell us an embarrassing high school story or moment. What's a good one? I was such a quiet kid. I was such a quiet kid in school. It was ridiculous. I was so shy. It's so funny running a YouTube channel when like I would be shaking up on stage reading a presentation. I'd literally be shaking. I did bring my combat robot to school once. It was like year 10. And I took it into one of the hallways, and like I was getting a bit of attention because I'm the weird kid building combat robots. And this is a featherweight, 13 kilos or so. And it was like at the level where there's the science rooms. So I was sort of in there when I shouldn't have been. And it went out of control. And like took off through the chairs and tables and like just barreled through. And this teacher just comes storming out. I was like, what are you doing? It turns out like the HSC exams are on at the same time, which is why there was no one there. Like there was no classes being run because the year 12s are doing their freaking final year exams. And like they gobsmacked that I was the one doing it because I'm like the quiet kid. So I didn't get in trouble. It was just like the bestest. What like confusion. But that was fun. I remember like bringing my robots on the train to events, and they just have a suitcase full of steel. And like this cop stopped me, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's a combat robot." And he's just bemused. He's like, "Carry on, keep going." Anyway, Zed Frenchie, $5. Thank you so much. Have you tried Design Spark Mechanical? Yes, I did. I included it in my roundup of free free CAD programs. I found it quite capable. There's a few limitations, like you can't really do text in it, but it was fairly good and capable. I still think the summary of that roundup, if you don't care about your files being accessible to anyone in the world, Onshape was quite good, but again, it's cloud-based, so they could change their rules at any time. Yeah. But yeah, Design Spark Mechanical is definitely viable. Cat Food Tuner. It will go into the cat fund. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Alright. I think I gotta round it up. I will update you guys on how the overhang test goes. It's gonna go for another 2.5 hours or so. And yeah, so what to look out for on the channel. So I will do a comparison between the original Mark IV, and like the A1 Mini to see like a speed and quality comparison. Obviously this guy's coming soon. A few more things to change. Laser cut foam wheels, by the way. Surprisingly effective. And I am working on bringing back the off-road robotics platform. So I've got a like a gear train I've been printing. There you go. So the old one, the issue was it relied on expensive, like, combat robot gearboxes. This one is all 3D printed with spur gears and a very cheap motor. I might do a video in future on my addiction to buying cheap electromechanical crap from AliExpress. Because all of these things I'm building are built with, like, the cheapest components you can get. Like, these gear motors, $3, you know, and they're incredible. And it's not like they're cheap because they're bad. They're cheap because they're like new old stock. So they have been sitting in warehouses for years. Someone's bought them in an auction, and maybe the company went broke. Maybe they changed their design. Whatever. They're good things, which are cheap because their purpose they were built for doesn't exist anymore. So I might do a video on that because it's an interesting thing people don't really think about, that you can get like cheap stuff direct from China that isn't crap. Isn't cheap because it's crap. It's cheap because it's like just changed directions and it's been sitting in a warehouse, no longer needed. Anyway, lots of things going on. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Hope this janky stream has been enjoyable. I'm going to go feed the cats and get some lunch. I'll catch you guys again very shortly here on Maker's Muse.